Hello, hello, hello. My computer froze up on me for a second. Nikkei, how you
Hi.
doing?
Is it the broadcast? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Can you see me?
I'm good. Yes, I can see you. I can hear you. You're in the broadcast.
I can't.
My computer froze for a moment when I was bringing you in and bringing myself in. And so I want to go ahead. Tonight we have a very special guest. You met her briefly. Her name is Betty Maddox Battle. And
Hmm.
she is the CEO and founder of an organization called Grieve. And she is definitely an expert in this conversation because she has lived experience with gun violence. Um, I, I, I'm going to allow you to speak and share. And y'all, this is a conversation, but I want to cut real quick to do a share of my Facebook because we have Cortez Rice live in Akron, Ohio. So I'm going to cut to that really quickly so we can see what's going on in Akron and then we'll have a conversation. Does that work?
Yeah, that's perfect. What I was gonna say was I'm going to try to connect back from my phone because I can't see myself and I can't see you. Like it's like going really slow. I could tell it's lagging really bad.
Okay, fine.
So I'm
That's
in the
fine.
meantime. But so we do have 3 minutes.
No, we're on live. I'm sharing now.
Oh, it's okay.
All right.
Back up and running.
Can y'all see the video? Can you see it?
I can hear it.
This is what a peaceful protest looks like. This is Akron, Ohio, live right now from Cortez Rice's page. Justice for Jalen Walker. Hold on, I'm gonna give it one more moment for him to get to shut it down. His son was murdered. His son Jamari Rice was murdered by police violence, police gun violence, February 18th of this year. All right. All right. I just wanted to show people what a peaceful demonstration looks like because um, this young man, Jalen Walker, was gunned down and murdered. And whereas the community really should have shown up and been in outrage, that's what it looks like at the beginning. So if you think that one voice isn't enough, it takes one to get it started and to build a tribe. And just start, and your tribe will find you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that was just now. That was live in Akron, Ohio.
That was live in Akron, Ohio for Jalen Walker.
Mhm.
Cortez Rice has become an activist after his son, Jamari Rice, was murdered by the police February 18th of this year.
Which is a great segue into our topic.
Yeah. So before we go any further, I'd like to introduce a very fabulous woman who is remarkable. It takes something to really be in this conversation, and it takes something to crusade when nobody's listening, nobody's watching, or you feel like no one's listening and watching. And Miss Maddox Battle, Miss Betty, as we call her, Miss Betty, has been in this conversation And I'm going to bring her in to share her story and also to talk about grief and to talk about gun violence. So here we come. Miss Betty Maddox Battle.
Yes.
Hey,
Good,
Miss Betty.
good evening. Thank you so very much for allowing me this opportunity, to speak on behalf of what is going on and how that affect me personally. Again,
Yes,
my name is Betty Maddox Battle. I am the mother of Michael Maddox, a 25-year-old black male who was murdered in 1993 by a 16-year-old, shot 4 times. Um, I have over 30 years of working in law enforcement. So I've experienced both aspects of violence, the judicial aspect and the victim aspect. And I'm here today to support families. I am the founder of a 501c3 nonprofit acronym GRIEVE, and it stands for Grieving Relatives in Every Violent Event. And that encompasses teen violence, gang violence, domestic violence, and now suicide. We cannot leave that out. So
Absolutely.
what we do, and our primary mission is to provide support and resources with compassion to individuals who've lost their loved ones as a result of the senseless violence that is being perpetrated in today's society. I do believe that we as grieving mothers will continue to occupy the front line and speak for our murdered loved ones,
yes,
whether
ma'am.
stoic in front of a television camera or an emotional wreck at their funerals. It's past time. Enough is enough. And it's time out for talking. So therefore we need to bring action, pen to paper, and we need to collectively come together and call it what it is. So therefore, I'm here to support whatever the cause is. I thank God for the opportunity to share this with other mothers. And I tell people all the time, you can't imagine. I would not wish that on my worst enemy. So we can talk about it all day long, but until we put pen to paper and put some concrete solutions in place, which we have, nothing is going to change.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'm humble. Thank you so very much for this opportunity.
Yes, ma'am. So, Miss Betty, this is a conversation. We have a conversation about different things. Nike did a wonderful, phenomenal job of researching and pulling information tonight about cases because I was going to make it a black versus a white conversation, meaning how often do our boys, our men, not make it into handcuffs and into the back of a police car when these white men are shooting up police officers and shooting back, and they get Burger King instead of having a phone call to their mother saying they're not coming home. So I was going to make it about that. And as I was pulling out the different articles, I said, no, I need to call Miss Betty. I had to phone a friend. Julius is going to talk about me and my phone and a friend, but I had to phone a friend who knows, who's an expert, who has lived experience with this. You've lived through it, you've walked through it, you've lived through it with other families. Like you said, you've been doing this for 30 years. So when it comes to Jalen Walker and the Highland Park shooting or massacre, that was a massacre. 4th of July, and I think the number was like 135, 125 shot. Let
Mm-hmm.
me see. Let me give you a number.
Mm,
Uh,
wow.
seven. He killed 7 people
Yep, the seventh person passed today.
and a hundred and oh, that's what it is. About 124 people die every day in other acts of gun violence. That's a very high number. So what? do you think about those two shootings? And Nika, you can chime in as well.
Well, to be honest with you, it's unjust, it's unfair, it's unwanted, and it's senseless. Therefore, you need some attention needs to be brought forth. I do believe in police accountability. I think my personal opinion is this young man was running away. We've got to deal with the real root cause of what it is. What is the problem in the police department, in law enforcement, period? Why they killing our black males, but the white males will, they will arrest them.
Yeah,
Something is seriously wrong. And we have to stop turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to the things that matter in our community because it's our children that's being murdered. You understand? So
absolutely.
therefore, we've got to do something about it, and we've got to collectively pull together. We got to stop, fighting each other and backbiting with each other, and collectively come together. This should not have happened.
I agree. I agree. Nika, what do you think?
Absolutely. I think that just to piggyback off of what Miss Betty already covered, I mean the unjustness of the it's so vivid how every single time, I mean, we get these black men are getting the police called on them for simple things like battery or domestic violence, or not to say that those things are minuscule, but just saying that mass murder is very, I mean, come on, you know what I mean? For someone to die because their girlfriend called the cops on them for yelling at her, and then for someone to kill multiple people at a public event on Independence Day and still get the benefit of
Life.
of life,
Yeah.
absolutely, of life, of being able to go home in handcuffs. He has his rights, he has, you know what I mean, that comfort of knowing that, okay, at least he's going to to go through the justice system the way it was designed to happen. I think that's crazy. But to going towards what Miss Betty was saying, as far as the solutions, I'm actually putting together an event in Atlanta for the youth and as a deterrence. And I was going to ask you personally, what are some things that your organization has maybe figured out through the research and experience that gets through to teenagers as far as the deterrence of criminal activity or violence?
Number one, and I tell people this all the time, we've got to bring the young people to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And they got the answer. They know what the answer is. We've got to be inclusive and stop excluding them from the discussions and for the solutions. They know. Secondly, we've got to take a look at systemic racism.
Yes.
It is what it is.
It's
And it
real.
is exactly, it is a real serious problem, and we have to address it. But no one wants to sit down and talk about, systemic racism. So we got to change the policies and
Mhm.
change the narrative. But until we do it, we're going to have the black media involved.
Mhm.
We're going to have black elected officials involved.
The ones that aren't corrupt, the ones that aren't making money off of killing
Yeah,
our kids.
well, that's true too. But you got to address the issue. Bring it. You got to bring it to the table first and put it out there. You understand? You got to just put it out there in order to bring some solutions. And we have
Yes.
to start at the top. That's my opinion.
Yes, ma'am. I believe we got to start holding these people to account. We put them in office, and we usually put them in office because they're brown or black, or they seem to have something a commonality, because in Georgia, in Fulton County, you have to have a law degree to be a judge. But in a lot of these other counties, you don't even have to have a law degree. We have over 1,500 judges in the state of Georgia, and 1,300 plus don't look like us, meaning female or brown or black. So that we have over 1,300 judges that are white males, half of which have never attended law school. and we have them policing us, for better choice of words. So in saying that, um, we've got to do better at hold like we got to show up. We got to, like, not just at the, people think it's just about voting, and it's beyond that. It's joining these social organizations, it's volunteering with an organization like Grief, it's paying dues, or volunteering with Women on the Rise, it's impacting different
Signing
organizations.
petitions.
Yeah, well, it's beyond signing petitions. It's working with organizations that can impact public policy. We will
Right.
not get anywhere until we start writing the law. Not everybody is going to be an elected official, but everyone can impact public policy, whether it's a call to action, with Betty Maddox Battle. I'm going to share, I'm going to put you on the spot, Miss Betty, and share
Yes,
your
ma'am.
beautiful website so that people can see a little more about Grieve. This is Grieve's website. Grieving relatives in every violent event. So we have conversations about gun violence, grief counseling, food and clothes distribution. So when we look at causes, we want to look at real, people who are really doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
Those are numbers. Those are people doing the work. That's her baby. We want to get involved with people doing the work.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, though, within the community, like with the people that are being not only the victims, but like I'm interested in touching the youth, the ones that are out there, you
This
know.
isn't that show, though.
Hmm.
So if you want to have that conversation, this show is about gun violence, because right now we're talking about this young man that was gunned down. This isn't that show. And I know how important your event is to you, and you can share about your event, but this is about these young Black boys.
I actually wasn't speaking on the event. I was talking about how can we affect the youth who are being, not only who are being affected by the gun violence, but are also participating in the gun violence. What I was going to say was, what are some ways that we can, I know affecting legislation is very important as far as the political side of it, but I'm talking about in the actual streets of it, in affecting the people that are
That's
out
how
there.
you impact it. Because if we don't impact public policy, they arrest our Black boys. They put them in handcuffs. We have to sit there and decriminalize our Black boys, for one. And that starts with sitting there at those city council meetings that are boring as hell. That starts there with holding these county commissioners. They control the budget. So when the youth don't have summer camps, when the youth don't have basketball courts, when the youth don't have those things, it starts in those meetings. And it sometimes starts in a meeting of your neighbors. It's not just the elected officials. You have neighborhood planning units where they can decide if a YMCA goes up in your community. And we aren't engaging in those conversations, but then we're like, well, the youth don't have enough things to do. That's driving them to violence, or that's driving them to being arrested. You have to start around, what about the people that can't vote? What should they do to help? Get involved. And some of the people that think they can't vote really can vote, because a lot of times, like, they're changing the legislation. And if you're not educated about it, you just are locked out of the conversation. So it's not saying that you don't have a warranted point, Nikkei, about advocating for the youth, but you got to remember the people writing these pins and signing these checks to say you need a library. Michael Julian Bonds actually said we can't close jails because we have to fund the library. Does that make sense? When 1 out of 4 people in Georgia have been incarcerated, and not talking about the number of people that die by gun violence every day.
May I chime in just for a
Yes,
minute?
ma'am.
Well, first of all, I believe that the real work is in the streets. So we need to go to the streets, to the young people. We need to educate them and let them know that somebody cares. They don't know who to vote for. Mm-hmm. You understand? They don't know that because they have a felony and they've served their time, that they can get their voting rights back. We got to educate them, number one. Number two, the black elected officials that are running for these office, we've got to get a strong organization somehow, some way, and let sit them down at the table and let them know we have an agenda.
Mhm.
If you help us, we will remember. But if you do not help us, we will remember. You got to hold them accountable
Yes,
because
ma'am.
it's our children that is being murdered in the streets. Number three, certainly not last, but certainly not least, we got to hold these, the family is broken.
Mhm.
So you don't really know what's going on in that family. We're very judgmental people. We quick to judge, but you got to wonder, why is that young man out there gang banging? What is wrong? You know, the mother. You know what's going on. Where is the father? And get them some help. That's number three. Help is out there. We,
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I hate to be so radical, about this, but I've seen it. I've worked in it, and it's just time out for talking. I'm just tired of talking and
Hmm.
nobody's doing anything. You understand? Go to them. Go to take it to the street. That's what the Nation of Islam does. They're out there in the streets. They're not afraid of the young people, but most of the time, you don't want to see nobody going into the hood and embracing that young man or embracing that young lady who's been out there. You don't know why she's prostituting, why she's selling her body to take care
Mhm.
of her five little siblings. You understand? So
Mhm.
forgive me for my passion in my voice,
No
but
need.
I'm just fed up.
And regarding why is the young girl out there prostituting, I spoke with an organization who do Compassion Night, where they go out into the community about girls who have been sex trafficked. And Nike, this is a good segue into your event as well, so that you can share more about that. But they said, well, between them and this other organization, children are being sex trafficked, and it is illegal. They will lose their license if they house kids that are 11 and under. So when you drive down Old National and you see the little girl at 10 prostituting, who's strung out on drugs, they've been sex trafficked. And so Nike is having an event to raise awareness of these for the youth of different things that they can do to avoid the guns, the violence, everything. So Nike, why don't you tell us about your event?
So before I do that, I just wanted to just continue on what I was saying earlier about it just being a double-edged sword. I think just like you were saying, and then what Miss Betty was saying, is that of course the legislation needs to be done, and then the street work needs to be done too, because we can have all the legislation in the world, but if our kids still feel like gangs love them more than their moms and dads, and they are still picking up guns instead of trying to go to college, like that's still going to be our problem. So I definitely understand both sides, but that's what I was just trying to get to, like you were saying, the solution, like what can we do as a community, and how can we get across to these teenagers? Because like Miss Betty said, talking isn't doing it. They know the difference. They know right from wrong. They know the risk that they're taking.
But
So
they
it has
don't
to
all
be
know right
something
from wrong.
else. That there has to be something, a different way to get across to them, to where they understand that the love is there, because that's what they're looking for. I think that's a big root cause of it, is like you said, the broken family and the love. Even if it is there, they're not feeling it. They
Yeah,
don't
but
know that it's there. So I think like you said, just the those type of solutions of digging deep and figuring out, like, how can we fix this from the inside out, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So that's what I'm very much interested in. And yeah, to go on with my event, it's called Boost the Youth. It's actually going to be in DeKalb County on August the 6th. It's actually a community festival and resource fair. So we're going to have so many resource organizations out providing resources to the community. All of our vendors are required to bring free school supplies. We have some amazing sponsors that have brought forth over 1,000 book bags, over 1,000 toiletry bags. We have feminine products, all of things that we're going to be giving out to the community for free, just to kind of decrease that stress level that comes with starting a new school year. So I think that that kind of attends to not only taking care of the needs of the child, but also taking the care of the needs of the mom. So to give her that, you know, that kind of relief, so now they can kind of focus on starting off a new year, being less anxious, and you know, focus on the success. So that's just a little bit about the event. I didn't plan to go too far into it, but thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. And absolutely. And certain conversations like around the gun violence. So I had lunch the other day with an activist who's like, she's my mother in the movement, Teresa Elamine. I don't know if you know her, Miss Betty Maddox Battle. But she actually, she was been an activist in Stokely Carmichael when she was 17, organizing labor union movements. And she's 74. She just had her 74th birthday. So Miss Elamine and myself, Mama T, Queen Teresa, depending on which day of the week I want to call her, she and I were talking about Columbus. And I want to say that she said there's been 70, I don't want to mess up the statistic because I don't want to leave out our children, because they're our children. That 70-year-old sitting in prison is our child because he was birthed by somebody. And we as a community are accountable for them all. So I'm going to say 70 plus murders this year in Columbus, Georgia, by gun violence. And she was saying how the problem ends up being she's sitting in a house, and now the young kid, the teenager, is selling drugs, and the mom knows. And when they start telling her, listen, old lady, this ain't none of your business, and disrespecting her and everything, the mom says nothing, because without him selling drugs, there's no way to provide for the household and the household income. So we do need events like Boost the Youth. And we need public policy, because there needs to be some level of accountability. And we need organizations like Grieve, so that they can have family counseling, so that they can heal whatever trauma is there. Because mom may not know that she can be more or do more or have more resources.
Absolutely.
And mom may be limited in her thinking and beyond her education, because there are people with, you know, my father dropped out of school at 13. Now, he did die when I was younger, but we lived in a 2-story house, and he made it work, you know. So it's like there are opportunities out there. So people being educated, that education or lack thereof is not the end of the world. That's no reason to go purse snatch and now have to get shot at, you know, because when we were talking about the things, the senseless killings, like when Nike said, people dying over assault or battery or domestic violence. How about Mr. Jimmy Hill and his son, Jimmy Atchison, who was murdered because a girl reported her cell phone? Whole SWAT team, APD, everything that have surrounded his house, our taxpayer dollars, for this whole police force halfway to surround his house over a cell phone. This man got shot in the eye and his brain blasted out over a cell phone while his hands were up. And they said one officer shot him, one single shot, and he said he felt scared and like he was a threat. So when we start talking about the gun violence and the unnecessary killings, we can't exclude anyone. We can't exclude any cause, because it's all necessary. It's all relevant.
Right. Because that goes to show, you know, as just to piggyback off the litigation and the police reform, because if that was your first shot,
only shot,
like that's a good shot. If you're a sniper,
there were multiple officers, and there was only one who pulled one single shot, and he hasn't been indicted yet by our black DA Fannie Willis that we elected, that we put in office. And I don't know her personally. I mean, we follow each other on social media. She seems to be a nice lady. And in this situation, she needs to indict that officer.
Well, I said earlier, strength is in numbers.
Yes, ma'am.
Until we collectively come together and hold everybody accountable, and I'm a parent, and you cannot leave the parents out. They need to be held accountable.
Yes, ma'am.
Because a lot of parents know what their children are doing. You have to hold law enforcement accountable. And most importantly, you have to hold the elected officials accountable because we pay their taxes. And you also have to have, where are the ministers?
Yes,
You know,
definitely.
where are the preachers, the rabbis,
Right.
you know, the
Community leaders.
faith-based
Yes.
community. Everybody say they believe in God, but everybody don't call God the same name. But there's one God with many names. Where are they? So
Mhm.
everybody has to be held accountable. And when these shootings take place, everybody needs to be out there, and they need to do a quick, thorough investigation.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And and the reality is, parenting doesn't stop when your children turn 18. I remember in my 20s when I decided to date drug dealers and things because I was addicted to the fast life and to the high road. And during that time, there was no going home. My mom wasn't trying to hear that. I'm pulling up in the
Right.
yard with these
Right.
exotic cars and this loud music. And she's like, "Where's my grandchild?" Period. And I would be like, "But my mom doesn't love me." And I didn't realize how much she loved me by not condoning that kind of reckless behavior.
Mm,
Although I can say whatever I want to say about it, but I loved him, all of that foolishness. The reality is we have to be held to account as adults for what we are projecting to our kids. Thank God that my son, our big Nike's met my 17-year-old. The biggest thing that I argue about with him is, why haven't you washed the dishes and did you brush your teeth today? Thank
such
God
a
that
good
that's
kid.
the conversation, because
Such
it
a
could
good
have went a
kid.
different direction. He could
Right.
be one of these kids out here gang banging and drug dealing and prostituting and pimping, because these boys are prostituting these days since mommy ain't home and daddy ain't around. So, it can go so many ways, but it really does start with the community. It starts with us working together, and it starts with us impacting public policy. We need the village. I grew up with a village, and in the village, I didn't have to worry about anyone touching me inappropriately, anyone spanking me, even though they say I must spank you and send you home to your mama. That's what they used to do. But guess what? All they have to do is tell my mom, and I didn't even get that many spankings, but the threat, my mom give me that look, and that was enough. These kids ain't even afraid. They ain't afraid of mama. They ain't afraid
That's
of the
right.
police. They ain't afraid of the judge.
That's right.
And they get
It's
in
a,
jails and prisons and do the same thing. These
mhm.
kids are gang, like, people write me
It's
from
a,
prison with Rolexes on. I'm like, why do they have all those expensive watches? Who got,
it's
like,
a,
you in prison?
and that just goes to show that it's the psychology behind it. It's so deep. It's the hyperaggression. It's the lack of love. It's the brokenness. The fact that, in our community, there's a lack of healing. And so because this kind of trickles down to, and it hurts our men the most because they're so battered upon within society. And then when they come home, sometimes it's not that much better. And that's what they kind of go out there for love, I think. Or, of course, every situation is different, and some people just end up where they end up. But I'm thinking, like, it to be so happening so early in their lives, right? There's obviously like a breakdown, in, not to blame the parents, but there's a breakdown in that, the foundation, the very.
That's not an excuse. I'm gonna say it like that, because there is something called choice. God gives us all free will, and God gives us all choice. There's a lot of people who come from rough backgrounds and they make a choice. Everything is a choice. And when we define brokenness, I don't think that anyone's broken. I think we're all perfect, whole, and complete, because we are all creations of God. We're DNA that's been meshed together on assignment. And what we call brokenness may be a person's mission, their purpose in this life. And somewhere in that, they can heal themselves and heal others. But what's missing is, we have to support the healing process. So if we have a little boy that says, I was touched at 2, instead of saying, ooh, he might be this, he might be that, and now he's a grown 30-year-old man. We have to support the healing process, because it doesn't make him broken. It makes him really strong to be able to share and be that vulnerable. We look down on vulnerability in our community like there's something wrong with it. And it's like, I would rather have a man say that instead of a man take a gun and shoot someone in the head because of his version of love. Like how you were talking about the gangs earlier, giving people love. Like love is defined by how we define it. I remember working in clubs and some of the girls didn't think that a man loved them unless they were putting their hands on them. That's their version of love. And I can call it sick and I can call it whatever until I end up in that situation and I have to define it for myself. So it's like we have this thought that this is the way that it should look, but it's like it's the way that it should look for us. Like when we start looking high or looking low, thinking someone's either above or beneath, that's when the brokenness shows up in our community. We have to look at each other as equal. We have to look at each other as valuable. We have to look at everyone as whole, because if they're not whole, we're always trying to fix somebody. And the work is internal. If I do the work on Shantae, whatever I project to someone else is going to be grace and mercy, because I ask for grace and mercy every day. If I think that you're broken and I need to fix you, it's like saying I'm better than you. I know more than you. There's something wrong with you. And
If
there's
you
nothing
look
wrong
at
with me.
if you use the jargon in that sense, but basically what I meant by broken is traumatized. So hurt. That's just what I meant. So as a community, we're traumatized. So that's what I meant. So if there's a traumatized mom, she, no matter if her son gets touched at 2 years old and he comes to her, she's looking at him like that because she's traumatized. She can't attend to his trauma because she's traumatized. She has to tend to her brokenness, what is not making her whole, because you can't operate in your whole self if you're traumatized. Because it's like this. It's like having third-degree burns within your entire body. No matter if someone hugs you or if somebody stabs you, it all feels the same because you're traumatized. So if you're traumatized, it's hard to raise a child. It's hard to teach a child how to have emotional intelligence if you lack it within yourself. It's hard to teach a child how to react to someone attacking them if you're used to being attacked yourself and you don't stand up for yourself. You can't teach that to a child because you haven't tended to the traumas that came from you. And that happens a lot within our community. That happens a lot. And it's not even a matter of babies raising babies or children raising children and the age. It's a matter of being healed, because at 28 years old, when I had my son, I was not healed. So just like how my cousin had her son at 15 years old, we were in the same situation because we were not healed. So we had a lot of work to do within ourselves in order to be able to tend to that child, in order to be able to teach him not to spaz out when, you know what I'm saying, somebody tells him no. Because you know what he sees when other people are being told no, or other people don't get their way. That's how they react. So I can't react like that. Yeah, so it all comes from having compassion for ourselves and within ourselves, and being able to work on ourselves so we can show up whole, so we can attend to our children, so then they can then show up whole. So when somebody comes to them and says, "Hey bro, you trying to come do this right here?" You know what I'm saying? All you got to do is take this gun. All you got to do is stand outside. He gonna be like, "Nah, bro, because I'm not doing it for your acceptance, because you know what? I love myself and I accept myself. And I don't need to say yes to you for any kind of affirmation or confirmation that I'm strong or that I'm cool or that I'm worthy, because you have that worthiness within yourself." So that's what I meant by broken, not necessarily to trigger anything or to offend anybody, but just saying that we're all traumatized, and not speaking to anybody. That's why I'm not saying you or they. I'm saying we as a whole. We have to come together to figure out how to heal ourselves, because that's really the root cause.
I agree. And I like the fact that you utilize the word traumatized instead of brokenness. Because even with what you were saying, as you were saying and speaking to traumatized and talking about being 28, I think I had Bryce at 26 or 27, and I really thought I had it figured out. I'm sure at 28, you thought you had it somewhat figured out, and then you're presented with something. But as long as you're trying to fix yourself, it's like saying I'm not whole, and it's difficult to heal the trauma. But you actually using the word traumatized is a different conversation, because I advocate all day for ending the stigma of mental health. And when we talk about trauma, so many people don't want to deal with it because they think of mental health instead of just dealing with the trauma. And guess what? That trauma may take a 28-year-old back to being 15 or back to being 2. because there may be some unhealed trauma at that age. But guess what? It takes a whole strong, courageous human being to do that work. So
Right.
anyone who does the work is whole. There's nothing to fix. Everything is perfect.
Well, it's already been said. You don't know what you don't know. And I agree with you both. We know that the black family is broken, but sometimes what's broken can be put back together. But you still got to get to the root cause of why we're broken. There's high unemployment rates, female head of households, poverty, homelessness, you know, prison population is increasing. What is the prison? The pipeline, school pipeline.
Mhm.
Now they're assessing children in the fifth grade, whether or not they're going to prison or whether or not they're going to finish school. So we're dealing with some real serious issues in the black community, and nobody can fix it but us.
Yes,
Absolutely.
ma'am.
All these organizations out here, Grieving Relatives has been in effect since 1993, but we did not get our 501c3 until 2010. We applied for the American Rescue Plan. We've applied for many, many grants, but yet and still, we've helped hundreds of families. We're not getting the money where it really needs to be. And it's okay for us to be traumatized. I know what it is to be a single parent. And we do have choices, but we have to let these young people know you got to show them. You can tell them all day long that you love them, but until you show them that love, a lot of them don't know what love is. You understand? So what we have to do, we have to take it back we got to take it back to the streets and got to get out there and show them what love is. But most of the time, we're afraid of them. That's what I see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't get afraid of them. Go ahead, Nikkei. They start pulling out guns. It's like, if you don't put that gun away, ain't nobody scared of your gun.
Nobody's scared of you.
Teach them, how do you resolve conflicts? You got to start in kindergarten. You cannot wait until
Yeah.
sixth grade and resolve conflict. Well, no, this is my toy. No, I had it first. You got to show them. But by the same token, it doesn't make sense to fix the children and the family is not getting. It's just like putting a band-aid on a wound. You understand?
Exactly.
Me and both.
Let me say this real
Yes,
quick.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
In the black community, we have been affected by cancer, and it has metastasized into gun violence. And can fix it. It can be fixed. And it's people like you, it's people like me, it's people like Miss Rebel, and others out there that is sincere about this problem. And we're going to have to, I still say we got to take it to the streets. I'm sorry.
Yes, but when we take it to the streets, we can't be afraid of going in the hood. The hood is the streets too. It's like, it's easy to go to Buckhead. It's easy to go to the Capitol, but who's going to Bankhead?
You got to go where the problem is. That's my point. You don't send a well person to the hospital if they don't need it. You got to send a sick person in there. And a lot of times, most of the times we don't want to deal with it. So I'm just excited about even having the conversations, because we're taught in Islam that we are the mothers of civilization. The black woman has been through to hell and back.
Earth.
We got the answers. We got it. Our children would listen to us. We can't send them, away and think that the system is not going to fix it. That mother can fix it. That mother across the street or that young lady across the street, to show them, look, son, I love you. That's not the answer. A gun. That's the first thing they pick up. And last but not least, how in the heck are these guns getting into our communities?
Because they're dropping them off. You know, they just passed that gun law, making it legal for everyone to carry. And
We gotta ask the hard
I
question.
had a white guy, Miss Betty Maddox Battle, ask me. I had a millionaire put $1 million into my company, JJC Holdings, and he at I'm gonna say it, at an attorney general's house. He picked me up from the hood when the first time that I was in transitional housing and had lost my mind. He picked me up, took me to this house. Denise Richardson used to own it, and he asked me if I would be willing to buy guns. And my investor was like, "We don't buy guns, we don't run guns," but he was trying to get me to buy guns to put into the hood. He was like, "You gonna turn into one of these people?" I was like, "One of what people? A black person?" You know. And at that time, I was so disconnected from the reality of what it means to be black. Like, I thought that I was connected because I work for black people only, or because I supported this black business every now and again when they start talking about it. But I was really, really I didn't even know what the resistance was. Someone was like, "How do you resist?" I was like, "I resist by not joining all these organizations." And it shows. But guess what? Because I grew up in a certain middle class environment, I never had to rely on white people's money or doing business with white people. And because of that, because my friend circle looked more like me, you know, I have friends to this day, the Mollys, the Sarahs, the Reginas from elementary school. But guess what? My core friends were Tashika, Ebony, Tequila. Those are my go-to girls. And because they look like me, that's what I identify with. And because we supported each other, that's what I identify with. So I didn't think that I lacked the conversation of what it meant to be black. And until I went through my mental health crisis and ended up off Simpson Road more than once, until you go through living in the hood where people are getting shot on a regular basis, where you passing bodies from time to time, where there might be a crime scene, you wake up to the police running through your community, like literally, you know, you ain't really experienced the plight of the black man or woman in today's society. And it changes the conversation, and it changes you. It makes you a little more rebellious, or as you would say it, Miss Betty, Nikkei Rebel, she got the rebellious part. But what you said, Miss Betty Maddox Battle, is it makes you a radical. Like, we got to get radical. The churches talk about it, radical praise. We got to take that radical praise to the street and get radical.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And just because Miss Betty Maddox touched on homelessness, I wanted to ask y'all, just live, did y'all hear about the people on Candler Road who are getting kicked out on August 31st?
Actually, so what happened, I sit on the client advisory council for that organization.
Yeah, okay.
No, I have not heard that they were getting kicked out August 31st. I actually need to do a follow-up with the organization that I sent in. Partners for Home in the city of Atlanta partnered together, and they got $25 million. And the first hotel didn't want the homeless people to receive mental health services, diabetes services. They didn't want them to have services at all. They didn't want us bringing food to them. They didn't want us bringing clothes to them. They just wanted to take the $25 million and house them. And that wasn't going to work. So we had to move all of those people off of Candler Road. So that may be what you're talking about. They weren't getting put out. They were in the parking lot getting moved in. So
no, I'm talking about, so there's an apartment complex called Candler Forest. They're closing down for renovations, and they're kicking everybody out.
Oh, like it's an apartment complex. I thought you were talking about
not the homeless. Yeah, no, not the. I remember you was telling me about that too, but I wanted to just ask y'all real quick, because I just started looking into it, and there are a bunch of women that are getting together to form a coalition to try to help them. But there is 200 families living in this apartment complex on Candler Road, and they're closing it down. They gave them 30 days, and then everybody made us think about it, like, how are we going to find somewhere to live in Atlanta in 30 days when there's already a crisis? And so they gave them 30 more. So they're telling them by August 31st they all have to go.
I don't know anything about that, but I'd love to get with you after
I'll
the show
send
to
you.
learn more
Yeah,
about it. 'Cause we have a
I'll send you
continuum of
the.
care meets
I
the
just
home.
thought about it when Miss Betty said homelessness, and then of course knowing that that's your cause, I was like, oh my God, I wonder if y'all heard about it. But no,
But that's
yeah,
how gun violence starts too. That's how
right, because you're
shootings
putting
in
them in such
neighborhoods.
a compromising situation.
That's right.
That's how the prostitution starts. That's how the
That's
drugs
right.
start because of the stress and the anxiety. That's how it all. That's the root
That's
cause.
right.
Right.
Poverty will take you places that
That's
people say
right.
things like money is the root of all evil, but they
Mm-hmm.
forget what poverty will do. Poverty
Mm-hmm.
will take you there
That
too.
desperation, like you
Mhm.
said, just like how you were saying, Shantae, knowing that Black experience, knowing that as a Black woman or as a Black man, you have so much to think about versus that, another person who just has, bills, work, kids. We got bills, work, kids. Then there's this whole system that's literally resting on our shoulders
Mhm.
every
Mhm.
single day.
Every time I look at one of my Black boys and I think about my dead docket terroristic threat charge, like knowing that there is a federal file somewhere sitting on me because I'm considered a radical activist these days. And I'm like, when did I even become an activist? I don't even know how that happened. I was just a mom looking for her other two kids. But somewhere in there, some kind of fire got ignited in me. And I think about my little Black boys. And I think about my little Black girl that's missing. This is a sidebar. I had a conversation with an organization today because they had an article on 11 Alive that was child trafficking, baby trafficking, the new Wild West of Atlanta. And when I talked to the lady today from that was interviewed, she said that she had a sting operation where she went in and they had found with the FBI, and they found a 3-month baby and their 5-year-old sister in a hotel being sex trafficked. And there are no laws for babies to 11-year-olds and to protect them because they say that they can't communicate what happened. So they've had
But biologically, you can tell.
it doesn't matter because they can't say that that person actually did it to them.
Oh.
It's their word against an adult, and their word doesn't hold up in court. She had an 11-month-old that had been raped, 10 times by a grown man, and then he threw him out the window. There was semen, there was DNA, there was blood, and the judge let him walk. So when we start talking about the healing in the communities, our community needs a whole makeover. This Roe versus Wade, I spoke out about that. As a person who has had an abortion, I don't even agree with abortions.
Right.
And as a person who has, it's a woman's choice because guess what? 700 to 800 there in the last 10 to 15 years, women have been incarcerated at 700 to 800% more than men in the last 10 to 15 years. So now we're about to have more, and people don't know this too. When I've had my babies, I always advocate to have a Black doctor, not because I don't think white doctors are competent, but there are studies and statistics to show that Black women die more when a white doctor delivers. And then I found out this is very alarming, that there's a certain hospital who would allow, they would tell teenagers and tell poor Black women that their babies were coming out breech. And really, when it's time to turn the baby, they turn them upside down to make them breech, so that they can get full-term abortions and chop off the head and then sell the babies into scientific research. There is some sick stuff going on in this world. And we have got to stop killing each other because they're already trying to take us out. They're trying to get rid of our whole generation, our whole legacy. It's mass genocide. We
The
have
unification
Hitler,
is so
we are the
important.
Jews. And, it's like we're the Jewish community, but no one's listening. No one's watching.
Everybody's pretending like we're crazy.
No one's watching as people are getting raped, people are getting murdered, people are going to prison innocently, like Kevin Upkin sitting in prison for life without parole for armed robbery over a check. No one was harmed, and guess what? He had a full alibi, and there was no weapon, and he's sitting in prison for life without parole while this man molests an 11-month, not 11-year-old, 11-month, and throws him out a window and walks. You tell me, where's the justice in that? And then when that mother or father goes and shoots them, guess what they'll be charged with? Murder.
Right.
And sit in jail and prison. So we have to find better solutions to deal with our anger and our outrage. We need more trauma-informed care in our communities. When I ran for office, that was one of the things I kept advocating for, is trauma-informed care. Out of all of my certifications, that was the most enlightening and empowering to me. That trauma-informed care piece, when people are able to heal the trauma and able to see what's triggering them so that they can apply coping skills and know that you're whole. And it takes work, but there's nothing to fix. It's just to be present. Because when we start fixing, we check out. We stop being present. We stop realizing everything that's wonderful and fabulous about us. We start fixing things from 15 and we're 43. I'll be 43 next month, y'all. So, Miss Betty Maddox Battle, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Do you have any closing words for us? About a minute's worth?
I think if I had to say anything, I would say what the great late Jimi Hendrix once said: when the power of love overcomes the love of power, that world will see a change. We gotta stop talking about it and be about it. Mm-hmm. Genuinely loving. When you love yourself, you will not hurt your brother or your sister. Mm-hmm. That's real love.
Amen.
I thank you for the opportunity. I'm humbled by, and I hope and I pray that I can, sometime in the future, be a part of this platform. As Black women, we gotta pull it together, because we're really gonna be the answer,
Absolutely.
to our own problems.
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
Our problem, so therefore we gotta fix it. Thank you.
And guess what? Guess what? You're welcome. Come August 1st, this whole platform, Our Black Media, will be on Roku, in addition to Facebook and YouTube.
Congratulations.
And Nikkei has an announcement. Would you like to announce it now during this last couple of seconds, Julian?
Oh, sure. So I wasn't, because I hadn't talked to Julius yet, but we can do it in a second. But so I'm moving forward in my journey. I would like to, this is great, to publicly thank Shantae, because Shantae has changed my life. I say it all the time. She's definitely been a guardian angel in my newest path. And I'm forever grateful. Thank you so much for the many opportunities you have exposed me to. And I would like to thank Julius for allowing me on the platform. And I hope I can pop back in, every now and then. But right now, I just have too much, and I don't want to lack in any area. So I'm going to compartmentalize and come back together and go from there. But thank you so much. I'm forever grateful.
But you haven't said what's going on. This is your last episode with us.
Sorry. This is my last episode, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not good with endings. I was never going to say it. But so this is my last episode. I am parting ways, but like I said, I will definitely be willing to pop back in, and I'm forever grateful. And to you, Ms. Betty Maddox, I'm so excited to have met you. And I'm so just excited to be in your presence on the podcast. I've taken so many screenshots, so I'll remember this. And thank you.
Thank you. And we are in trouble because we are over time. Peace. Thank you, Ms. Betty Maddox. And we will miss you, Nikkei.
Thank you.
I like that.